Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. We are just about to get started into our about 10th vegan and veg curious meetup. We've actually been hosting these for the past 2.5 years, and we were doing them in person for a long time. And now we are doing them virtually because we know that folks still need to learn this information, hear it in the comfort of their own home now. So tonight we are thrilled to partner with Plant Powered Metro New York on this event. They have something very special planned for us. If you are not familiar with this group, definitely look them up, subscribe to their newsletter. They are a modest group, so I'm going to say I think their newsletter is one of the best newsletters in New York City. It's a phenomenal resource for the community. So thank you so much. For those who aren't familiar or kind of tuning in for the first time, as you know, the borough president, or as you might not know, the borough president was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes about 4 years ago now. And it was at such a severe stage that he was blind in his left eye, had tingling in his fingers and toes. And when he started to eat a whole food plant based diet, he actually got his sight back, reversed the diabetes completely, and now lives to tell the tale and lives to spread the message of that. So he started these vegan meetups again 2.5 years ago. And we have been partnering with various groups. This is the second time we've been lucky enough to partner with Plant Powered Metro New York, and we're thrilled about their work in the community. From our office, I run his plant-based nutrition initiatives. We have a lot going on in the space, especially with COVID and with the comorbidities being so tightly associated with diet-related diseases. So please get in touch with our office if there are any questions that you might have. We have a food report coming out in the next month or so. Definitely excited to get that out into the community as well. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Leanna Reisner from Plant Powered Metro New York.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here and to, as always, to put together some programming for everybody in the world of the Office of the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams. We are always continually inspired by his story of healing from plant-based nutrition. And as an organization, I'm the network director of Plant Powered Metro New York, which is really out there building a movement around the health and healing that comes with whole foods as medicine. At Whole Plant Foods in particular, we teach about, educate, build awareness, and create health empowerment by sharing about the amazing things that can happen when we focus our diet on plant-based foods, plant-sourced foods that are largely unprocessed, foods that look like they come from the earth for the most part, and the amazing impact that that can have not only on conditions like diabetes, but also heart disease, gastrointestinal issues, and so many other issues that people across our great city and people across the country are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So what we want to do for you tonight, a lot of the programming that we generally offer is educational in scope, and tonight we're really taking it home and sharing with you what can happen in the kitchen. We have some wonderful Brooklyn-based chefs who are going to share with you a dish. Each will share a different dish from their culture, so that we can learn a little bit about what plant-based foods, what plant-powered foods look like in the kitchen across the globe. And we'll be sharing with you some recipes, both the recipes that will be demoed tonight, as well as recipes that we're sort of adding on as a bonus that represent different areas of the world. And you can consider this like a little global cafe. So what we'll do is I'm first going to hand it over to Plant Powered Metro New York's Brooklyn organizer, Bonnie Hepler, to share a little bit about whole food plant-based nutrition. And then you'll get a chance to meet and greet each of the three chefs who are joining us tonight. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. But of course, we always invite you to put your questions in the chat box. And if anything is immediately pressing, we'll absolutely ask it as we go. But we may return to a lot of it at the end. So with that, I will turn it over to Bonnie Hepler.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are so excited to share this event with you. As Leanna said, my name is Bonnie Hepler. I'm an organizer here in Brooklyn with Plant Powered Metro New York. I'm also a cardiac nurse by trade. And this evening, before we hear from our chefs, I'd like to share a few comments on the importance of eating a plant-based diet, especially in this current era. I'm sure you are each familiar with chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, obesity, dementia, cancers. Maybe you yourself struggle with some of these diseases or care about somebody who does. CDC data estimates that 60% of US adults have one of these chronic diseases, and 40% of US adults have 2 or more chronic diseases. As common and as devastating as these conditions are, our daily lifestyle choices are, in fact, the predominant factors that determine whether or not we develop one of these chronic diseases. Diet in particular plays a huge role, and an abundance of evidence shows that choosing to eat a whole food plant-based diet dramatically reduces your risks of developing these chronic diseases, thereby allowing you to take control of your own health. As the COVID-19 pandemic built in intensity earlier this spring, I found myself checking the data on the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene almost every day. I was interested in not only the total number of cases, but also the breakdown in terms of age, gender, and chronic illness. The data collected by the health department supported my own observations as a frontline nurse. And that is this, that patients who were diabetic, hypertensive, struggled with high cholesterol or obesity became sicker from COVID-19 than patients who weren't. Keep in mind, COVID-19 is a new infectious disease, so we don't have the studies to be able to directly draw conclusions about dietary choices and COVID-19 outcomes. For example, we do not have the data to state that eating plant-based will directly protect you from COVID-19 in the same way that a vaccine will hopefully soon be able to protect us. We do, however, have decades of research on thousands of people showing how whole food, plant-based diets are very powerful in reducing these chronic diseases. Knowing that chronic disease worsens COVID-19 outcomes, it seems wise during this pandemic to make dietary decisions that can reduce your risk of developing these chronic diseases. What you choose to eat also affects how well your immune system works. For example, phytonutrients are nutrients found only in plants, and ongoing research illustrates how many of these different phytonutrients interact with the immune system to allow for optimal immune function. Additionally, a flourishing and diverse gut microbiome is essential for proper immune function. How do you develop a flourishing and diverse gut microbiome? By eating a high fiber diet. The only way to get fiber in your diet, well, the best way to get fiber in your diet, because I guess you could take a supplement, but the best way to get fiber in your diet is by eating plants. And eating a variety of plants each day is what will create a thriving gut microbiome. A thriving gut microbiome helps control inflammation throughout your body and also helps to strengthen and regulate the immune system itself so that your immune system can perform optimally. There is no time like a pandemic to make dietary choices that keep your immune system in tip-top shape. There are so many foods that you can include in a whole food plant-based way of eating, from whole grains, beans, legumes, to all the vegetables and fruit, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices. There are thousands of plants to choose from. Our chefs this evening will showcase how these plant-based ingredients can be combined into a variety of delicious dishes. We hope you will enjoy learning these recipes and that you will try them for yourselves at home. Here to introduce you to this evening's first chef is Leanna.
All right, thanks so much, Bonnie. So tonight we are starting with Chef Emani Parsons. Chef Emani is also a Brooklyn organizer for Plant Powered Metro New York. We are so proud. She is a plant-based nutritionist, plant-based baker, and Zumba instructor. She's a former student of Natural Nibbles Cooking School, Level 1 series classes, and a former community chef assistant teacher. She prides herself on making plant-based meals that are nutritious and delicious. Plant-based comfort foods are close to her heart because most of her family originates from the South. coaching others throughout their nutrition journeys, facilitating nutrition workshops, and orchestrating virtual cooking consultations are just a few of the many services that she offers within her business, PPMNY LLC. Her cooking philosophy is keep it simple, delicious, and nutritious. So before I hand it over to Emani, I'm just going to share with you in the chat box a link to where we have posted all of the recipes that you can take a look at. So go ahead and pop that open if you'd like to follow along. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chef Emani.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy that you guys decided to join us for this amazing event. Like Leanna said, a lot of my family members originate from the South. So I grew up eating a lot of collard greens. But in my culture and in my family, when we were eating collard greens, a lot of those collard greens had like pork or ham hocks in them. But as you guys know, I am plant-based. So when I switched over, I had to create my collard greens in a different way. So today I'll be able to show you guys how to make collard greens without using any oil, without using any meat, and just really seasoning them with a lot of natural herbs and spices. We're going to water saute. So I have a lot of things cut up over here. I have my collard greens, I have my tomatoes, and I have my onions, and I'll be holding up ingredients so you guys can see it as I go along. All right, so the first thing that I'm gonna do, which I did already, is I took my pan and I put some water in my pan because we are going to water saute today. So I have my pan with some water, and what I like to do first is I like to cook down my tomatoes first, and then I cook down my onions after. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be adding to this pan is the tomatoes and the onions. So I'm going to show you guys what my tomatoes look like. They look really, really, really fresh. I love its bright, vibrant color. These are my tomatoes right here. So I'm going to take my tomatoes, I'm going to put them into the pan along with my onions. And I'm going to flip the camera when everything is cooking so you guys can see me. Adding my onions to the pan. And once you put your onions and your tomatoes in the pan, you're going to want to put that on medium heat. Okay, and you're going to let it cook down for about 3 minutes. And then you're going to add your seasonings in today. All right. So while my onions and tomatoes are cooking, I'm going to talk to you guys about the seasonings that we're going to use today. So I have cayenne pepper. Okay, this is extremely amazing. It really gives your greens that spice. In the recipe, you'll see I put that you guys can add in how much or how little of this that you want as possible. I know some people really don't like the spice. I also have some onion powder here. I have some smoked paprika, also have some garlic powder, and I have some Himalayan pink sea salt. But we want to make sure that when we're cooking, especially plant-based cooking, we're cooking with nutrition in mind. We want to use a little bit of salt, not too much. We get all our flavors from our natural herbs and spices. So my tomatoes are coming along here. Just waiting for them to cook down. And then when these cook down, that's when I'm going to add in my different seasonings to the mix. Takes about 3 minutes. So I'm going to flip my camera so you guys can actually see that. So we move over here. All right, sorry about that. And as you can see, I have my tomatoes over here. They're cooking down. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, as you can see, I'm cooking my tomatoes. I'm cooking my onions. And they're really starting to cook down now. That's when the water is going to start to evaporate. And I'm going to start to add in my seasonings pretty soon. All right, so I'm going to put the camera back on me so you guys can see my face as I'm adding in my seasonings.
And I'll just pop in while Imani's getting that set, just to say we're sauteing in water so that we can show you a really low-calorie way of making starches, which is going to be great for your health.
And now I'm adding in my seasonings now. So I'm going to start by adding in some onion powder. So I'm using 1 tablespoon of onion powder. Adding that into the mix. My water is boiling right now. So right now is the perfect time to add in the seasonings that I have over here. Next, I'm going to add in some smoked paprika, which I really like to use when I'm cooking my greens because they're very flavorful. It makes a nice, really nice flavor, a smoky flavor that's awesome. So that's something that I really enjoy using. I also have some garlic powder here. So I'm going to add that in as well. 1 tablespoon of everything. It makes the recipe a lot easier. All right, so next I'm going to add in my salt. When I cook with salt, I only add a little tiny bit of salt because I want most of the flavor to come from the spices. So as you can see, that's all the salt that I'm going to use. And then I'm going to mix everything up. I wish you guys can smell this nice mixture that I have right here. It smells amazing. I smell the smokiness, the salt. And now I'm going to add in my amazing collard greens. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. My collard greens are right here. What I like to do with my collard greens is I like to make sure that they're destemmed, and then I cut them into really nice rhythm shape. Okay, so I'm going to put it in the pan. My tomatoes and my onions are already cooked down. I love making my collard greens into a rhythm shape because it gives it a really nice flavor. And it's a really great size and it looks really nice, aesthetically pleasing when you put it on a plate. Okay, I'm adding my collard greens in here. Usually when you water saute collard greens, it takes about 10 minutes. So you want to make sure that it's cooking down really nice, smelling all the different flavors that you incorporate into the dish. And always stir it around so that all of the seasonings can be equally distributed in your pan, okay? Always stir it around. If you need to add a little bit of water, do that as well. So my collard greens are really starting to cook down now. I'm actually going to put it next to the camera so you guys can see. So this is what my collard greens looks like so far. So as you guys can see, it's almost done, not so much, and you can see that there's a little bit of water left. Okay, so when you're cooking the collard greens, especially when you're sauteing them in water, you want to make sure that the water just evaporates from the pan. And like I said before, that takes about 10 minutes. So I'm going to put it back on the heat, and I'm going to cook it down even more. But remember, the longer you cook your vegetables, the more the nutritional value goes down. So when you're cooking vegetables, you never want to overcook them, especially collard greens, because you want the texture to be nice and smooth, not too crunchy and not overcooked.
Emani, can you tell us a little story about this dish and how it features in your culture and your history, your family history?
Yes, of course. So like I said in the beginning, like I grew up eating a lot of collard greens every single time when we had Thanksgiving or any special family event. We've always had collard greens for that particular dinner. So it's something that's been in my life for a while. And it's definitely one of my favorite vegetables, of course. So I eat this vegetable probably about once a week or every other week. All right, it's cooking down really nice now. So I want you guys to see this. So I'm going to flip my camera again. All right. And so this is what it looks like right now, if you guys can see. So it looks like my collard greens are really cooking down. You can see the
water is really evaporating. You can see that the seasoning is really equally distributed. And the collard greens are really cooking down. Okay, so I'm gonna cook this for about 5 more minutes. And then my collard greens are going to be done. All right, so as this cooks down, I'm just gonna tell you guys some with collard greens, because collard greens are not really a full meal. It's usually used as a side dish. So something that you can eat with your collard greens are baked beans. You can also have some chickpeas. You can have beans and quinoa, baked oyster mushrooms. There are a lot of things that you can do with this dish. This dish really complements a lot of different things that you can make in the kitchen that are really simple and easy. All right, my collard greens are almost done. All right, so in my pan, the water is completely evaporated. So that means that my collard greens are cooked. It's ready to go, and I'm ready to plate it. So I'm gonna put my collard greens on a plate, and then I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like. When I eat collard greens, I eat a lot of them. So I really like to give myself a really nice hearty soup. All right, my collard greens are ready to go, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So this is my plate with my collard greens on it. As you can see, it's really nice and hot, and a lot of people think when you water saute, your food comes out really watery, but and not really flavorful. But if you do it correctly, you're able to really just infuse all of the flavor into your greens. So as you can see the smoked paprika, you can see the cayenne pepper, you can see all the seasonings I have in there, as well as my tomatoes and my onions. So it's a really nice and easy dish to prepare. It's super healthy, super flavorful. And now that my greens are done, I'm actually going to give it a little taste. I always like to taste my food after I'm done making it. So I'm gonna taste my collard greens and see how they turned out. Okay. It turned out really, really good, you guys. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this food demo, as well as the recipe that you're gonna get to cook these collard greens, because like I said before, they're super simple, super flavorful, and super healthy, okay? Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna pass it off to the next chef.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Emani. And just to make a note before we wrap up with her piece, Bonnie has some nutritional tidbits to share with us about her dish. But also just notice that those collard greens were still green. They didn't turn brown. They didn't turn some radioactive color. They were still green, and there's so much value in eating the green before it loses all of that. So Bonnie, will you tell us a little bit more about what's happening with collard greens and why they're so good for us?
Yeah, collard greens are in the same plant family as cabbage and kale, which are known to be some of the most powerful, highly nutritious, highly protective foods that you can eat. Collard greens in particular are a great source of fiber. We talked a little bit earlier about how fiber is important for having good gut health. And collard greens also provide our bodies with a lot of vitamins and minerals, including calcium. Collard greens contain a favorable calcium to phosphorus ratio. Phosphorus is another mineral that our bodies need for good health. When you have calcium and phosphorus in the correct amounts relative to one another, that is what helps you have the healthiest possible bones. Collard greens, being a cruciferous vegetable, are full of anti-cancer carotenoids and antioxidants. Combined with the onions and tomatoes and spices in this beautiful recipe, this dish is truly an example of food as medicine.
Excellent. Thanks, Bonnie. So now I'm going to introduce Chef Don, who is our second chef. Chef Don is a plant-based chef who was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Chef Don takes pride in providing communities with plant-based meals that nourish the mind, body, and soul. Specializing in many different authentic cultural cuisines, Chef Don uses his creations in converting traditional cuisine from many cultures to create plant-based versions that people can enjoy. The goal is to show everybody healthy alternatives for traditional foods that most are accustomed to eating by substituting plant-based ingredients. Chef Don focuses on bringing flavorful food that will bring your taste buds to a place called Flavatown. Chef Don, show us your kitchen. Let us know, what are you cooking for us today?
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's well and staying blessed. Well, today I'll be making an island kale salad. I like to call it island kale salad because it takes you to the islands. So what I'll have here is I have shredded kale, I have baby lettuce, and I also have some wild arugula. I have diced mango. I have red onion, red bell pepper, the juice from the diced mango, and I'll have hemp seeds where I make the dressing to go with the salad.
Wow, that looks really good.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate everything, take you guys on a trip to Flavortown. Just to give you guys more a little bit about myself, I do have a Caribbean background, so making Jamaican dishes and a lot of Jamaican cuisines brings you back home, brings you back to my roots, and I'm just glad to be able to be a chef and share with everybody as I continue my business endeavors. So with that being said, I would like to demonstrate everything. So what I'm going to do is now I have my greens already rinsed. So my greens are rinsed thoroughly, mixed together. What I will do now is I will add my onions. The red onions is good. I love raw red onions. I never was a fan of onions, but now, so ever since I converted to plant-based, I can't get enough of it. So it's definitely a go-to in my kitchen.
Yeah, and you have them sliced really thin. Are there other ways I can cut the onion?
You could dice it as well. For this salad, I like to keep it sliced. I'm gonna add my red bell pepper. So what we have here, we have about a half a cup of red onion. We also have a half a cup of red bell pepper. I'm going to add my diced mangoes in there. So what I do is now, I would just let that sit for now. Now I'm gonna make my sauce. And when I make my sauce, I add the dressing to the salad, and then I mix everything together. So now I'm gonna have my blender. I'm gonna add half a cup of hemp seeds. Now with this salad, you can eat it for appetizer, lunch, or dinner. If you want to make it more hearty, you can add chickpeas. You can add some mushrooms. You can add anything you would like that's plant-based to make it give you a more hearty consistency. But to me, I love the salad by itself. So now I'm going to add my seasoning. So I have clove. Just show you guys my seasoning. I have clove, brown clove. I have some ground ginger. I have some thyme. And thyme is a big staple in Jamaican cuisine because of the seasoning and it's abundant of it. So any type of Jamaican cuisine, you're most likely going to find in a recipe thyme and scallions. But thyme is definitely a big staple. I have some onion powder. I have some cayenne pepper to give it a little spice. I have some sea salt. And I have some Scotch bonnet pepper. Now this is optional. For me, I like a little bit more spice, and Scotch bonnet is another staple in Jamaican cuisine. And adding this, the powder form, because eating the raw pepper would probably be a little bit too spicy for some, but I just add a little pinch to the dressing, and that gives it a nice little kick.
Are those the raw Scotch bonnet peppers there?
Yes. So now I'm going to start with my seasoning. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 of a teaspoon of clove. Now with clove, you don't want to use too much of it because it is a very potent flavor, spice, but it's also a very key staple in a lot of jerk flavors. You can have ground clove, you could use the actual whole clove, but for this, since we're making a dressing, I like to use ground clove. I'm going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. Add in there. I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. That gives it a nice herb flavor as well. Brings the flavor down, very grounding, earthy flavor that I like. We're going to do a teaspoon onion powder. And for me, since I like the kick, I would add some cayenne pepper. I'll say you can do a 1/4 teaspoon cayenne pepper, just a little bit. And we have sea salt. So for the sea salt, I would do a 1/4. Some people would be like more or less. I'm a person that likes a little bit on the less side. So I'm going to go with a 1/4. If you think it needs a little bit more flavor with the salt, you can add a 1/2, no more than a 1/2. And also because I'm adding some smoked sea salt, I like to add a little pinch of it. Smoked sea salt. Now the smoked sea salt gives it the smoky flavor as if it was a jerk. It would taste like the salad was on a grill, which I really enjoy. Because anytime you hear jerk, you think of barbecues, you think of summertime, you think of nice islands, you think of a beach vacation, all of the above. And this is what brings me to that moment in mind. And last but not least, the star of the show, Scotch bonnet pepper. Now, this is very hot. It's dehydrated Scotch bonnet peppers. So I would only use a little bit less than a pinch, just a little hint of it. Because any more would be spicy dressing. So just a little pinch. And also you have the cayenne pepper. So with that together, it gives it a nice little mixture. And now I have 1/3 cup of spring water. Add that to the mix. Now, once you have all that together, you blend. I'm going to blend for about a minute or so. Sorry if the noise bothers you, but I'm just going to blend. Okay, the dressing is done. Give it a nice little shake. Shake them up, shake them up, shake them up, shake them. Now you can look at the dressing before I add it. And you see it has that nice little color to it. Got the hemp seeds, got your omega-3, your fatty acids. Everything is in there. Now, what I'll do is just give it a little stir, a little shake. Now I'll pour it on top of the salad. Top. Make sure you get all that goodness in there. And it smells amazing. You can smell everything. Now, lastly, the mango juice. So once I diced the mangoes, like I said, I kept the juice, and that's what you're going to use to give it more moisture because you're eating the kale. You can massage it well without the oil. You're not using oil, so the juice from the mango is a nice moisturizer for the greens and the peppers. Gives it a nice little beachy summer vibe to it as well. Pour that in there. Nice. Get your natural sugars. Now it's time to party. I'm gonna put on some gloves. I would, some people, you could use the tongs to mix it together. But for me, I like to get my hands dirty and I like to have that connection with the food. So I'll just mix it with my hands. All that goodness. Oh, wow. The colors. So you have the colors and also my background, Caribbean background. Colors of dishes definitely brings a lot of memories back at home. Massage together. When you're massaging it, make sure you give it a nice little massage. You want to rub it nice and firmly because you want to massage the kale. Helps the digestive process as well. All a good mix. This is what I call family time because as I add all the ingredients together, they're all getting to know each other like a family cookout. I always say, hey, the peppers is the cousins of the onions and the lettuce is the brother of the kale. So I look at it like a family reunion. All right, so we're good to go. Now time for the plating, the best part. This little twist. And this is also all year round cuisine. Especially for me, it's definitely a big staple. Eat it on the go, eat it at home. Once you massage everything sits nice and well. Peppers. If you like to use more peppers for color, you could use a yellow pepper, a green pepper, orange pepper. The more colors, the better.
It's beautiful, Chef Don.
Thank you very much. There you go. Nice island kale salad.
And there's a question, what if you don't have kale? What would you put in as other greens to eat?
It's a very good question. I would use another form of lettuce. You could use romaine lettuce, butter lettuce, arugula. What else we have there? The kale. The reason why I use kale is because when you add the dressing, it holds it very well. So you just want to use a very firm green that can hold the dressing. You don't want to use anything that's too thin because it will just wet out the mixture of the salad. But yeah, so that's the substitutes that I would go with.
That's great. And you're using a green curly kale here, is that what I saw?
Yes. Green curly kale, shredded kale, because I like to have it thinly sliced, so you can have everything, not chewing everything all in a simultaneously motion. Especially with the water content in the lettuce, it helps everything digest better.
Awesome. I know I love Tuscan Kale also, which is they call
Yes,
it.
yes, Tuscan Kale as well. That's a very good choice as well.
It looks delish, amazing. And what I love here is that we've just seen two really different and yet really amazing preparations of greens, which, in every culture there's different greens, and I guess, they grow all throughout the year. So they're one of our most important staples in our diets alongside fruits and whole grains and legumes and other vegetables. So Chef Don, thanks so much for sharing this dish with us, and love the dressing as well. I know Bonnie has a few things to share about the nutritional content of this dish as well. Bonnie?
Yeah, Chef Don, that salad looks incredible. Um, there's so much amazing nutrition going on in this salad. Kale and arugula are both cruciferous vegetables, like the collard greens, and are two of the most nutrient-dense foods we can include in our diets. When you hear cruciferous, think cancer fighting. I also love that Chef Don included the red onions raw when he was making the salad. Red onions contain another set or category of very potent cancer-fighting phytochemicals. And these phytochemicals are actually in their highest concentration when the onions are left raw. Here's an important tip that Chef Don mentioned a little bit as well. When eating plant-based foods, make sure to chew thoroughly. Digestion begins in our mouths, and chewing is an important step that allows our bodies to extract maximum nutrition from foods we eat, especially foods like kale, arugula, and red onions. I also wanted to highlight that hemp seeds are a noteworthy source of protein and minerals like calcium, potassium, magnesium, and iron. Accompanied by the peppers, the herbs, and the spices in this recipe, this is an amazing dish that will be so powerful and supportive for your whole body health.
Awesome. Thanks, Bonnie. And we actually have one more question I want to pose back to you, Chef Don, right now. One of our participants asked, is there a local bean, local legume, or a whole grain that you would traditionally add to a salad like this?
Yes, I will add chickpeas. I will add chickpeas. We got soaked chickpeas. Will be perfect for this because it gives this the source of protein as well, as I stated before. So definitely protein. Quinoa. Quinoa is another grain that I will add to the dish. So those two would be definitely a great complement to the dishes, to the dish. So I'll use chickpeas and quinoa.
Excellent. And that's actually a great segue because we're going to head into our final chef who is going to do a little bit for us with quinoa. Chef Yexenia Gomez is a New York-based private chef and culinary instructor and a chef with Keys to Abundant Life. She has a diverse clientele and has catered many events in the tri-state area. Chef Shenya teaches after-school programs as well as private cooking classes for kids, youth, and adults. She's led healthy cooking demos for hospitals, clinics, and community centers throughout New York City. She believes in teaching everyone the basics of cooking so that they can feel more confident nourishing themselves. Chef Shenya is from El Salvador and raised in Brooklyn. She attained her culinary degree from the Culinary Institute of New York at Monroe College. And we are going to pass it over now to Chef Shenya.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is actually a very cool event, and I'm really excited to be with you. So the recipe that I'm going to prepare for you today is a mint lime quinoa bowl. Okay, so we were talking about quinoa in the other recipe, so it's a good segue. So I'm going to teach you how to cook quinoa. It's going to be we're only going to make 1/4 cup, and quinoa is the same thing as rice. It is 1-to-2 ratio. So I'm going to take you to my stove. And I have some water already boiling. You don't need to boil the water, but because of time constraints, I started it. And I'm actually going to add something interesting. This is a breakfast recipe, by the way, you guys. So I'm also diabetic. I'm type 2. I was diagnosed about 10 years ago, so I know the struggle really well. And I'm always looking for something for breakfast that is nutritious, that it's healthy, but won't raise my blood sugar. So one ingredient that I'm going to add to the water for the quinoa is cinnamon, because cinnamon is actually something that I also use in my coffee, which has no sugar, which I've learned that lowers my blood sugar. So you actually have to be very careful with adding too much during the day. But one pinch of cinnamon powder in my water. And then I already measured out 1/4 cup of quinoa and I rinsed it. I'm going to add it to the boiling water. And then the same thing as rice. You have to cover it with a lid, let it boil, then bring it down to a simmer and leave it alone. You don't touch it, you don't open it, you don't stir it. I know in the Latin community, when we make rice or anything, our moms and our grandmothers tell us, go away, stop touching it. So quinoa, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but quinoa is a power grain, and it is from South America. It is about 4,000 to 5,000 years old, but it wasn't introduced to the U.S. until the 1980s. Okay, so now the whole world knows about quinoa, but the Incas and a lot of the natives in South America have been using it as their main source of nutrition and protein. So it is a great grain to use, especially for me since I am type 2. I replace all my rice dishes with quinoa. I usually cook it once a week. I keep it in the fridge and it's there for about, I don't know, 7 to 10 days because it lasts that long. So it's a great grain to use. And then I am going to add some fruit to this because this is a bowl. So I'm going to switch my camera. So in terms of type 2 diabetes, I have to be very careful about the glycemic index of the fruit that I used in my breakfast. So what I do is I try a combination of different fruit. I don't use grapes. I rarely use bananas just because it has a high glycemic index over 60. I always want to use fruit that is 55 below. So I use mango, okay? And I peel this one, but I actually love eating my mango with the peel on. And I do that because it has the extra fiber. Fiber helps fight the sugar level in my body. I also like using fruit because it has a lot of fiber as well. And I love using some raspberries. They're delicious, but they're also optional. When it comes to this recipe, you can use any fruit that you have in your fridge. I'm going to make a dressing with some fresh lime juice, agave. Agave, if anyone doesn't know, it's actually made from the agave plant, right? The agave plant. What else can we make from agave plant? Tequila. So I love telling people that. So agave is plant-based sweetener, and the glycemic index is also low. It doesn't raise my blood sugar level too quickly. So if you can see, I'm using ingredients that, even though they have some sweetness to it, it doesn't give me that like, whoa, my blood sugar is now at 200. I'm also going to sprinkle some sunflower seeds. Again, that helps. It's a protein and it helps with my blood sugar. And mint. I add it to my water. Mint is great for the summer because it's fresh. It's also a diuretic, so it helps if you put it in water, it helps, keep your body hydrated. Okay. So my quinoa is cooking and I am going to turn my camera over to myself. This is, again, very simple. So I'm literally just going to cut my fruit, but I'm going to make sure my quinoa is not, I put it down to a simmer. Quinoa takes about 20 minutes to cook. Since I'm only making 1/4 of a cup, it's not going to take that long. So I'm hoping everyone can see my table. So I'm going to just chop up some papaya. fruit that is melancholic to me. I grew up in Central America. I grew up in El Salvador, and I was surrounded by, talk about organic. I used to go to the mango trees, sit up there and literally pick mangoes and eat them every day. I used to go to the guava tree. I used to go to pick anonas, guanabanas, oranges, limes. So papaya is also something that grew around me, and so I try to pick fruit that kind of gives me good fuzzy feelings. And you literally, but again, if you have whatever you have in your fridge, you can use. So I'm just gonna cut this in chunks. I am going to also cut my mango in chunks as well. And this is a fun recipe if you want to do it with your kids. They can literally help you cut all the fruit. And you can put the fruit in bowls at the center of your table and have them decide what fruits they want. I can smell the cinnamon in my kitchen, which is something that I really, really love. So I'm just going to chop some strawberries. Not sure if anyone knows, but I love telling people this fact too. The seeds are outside. So just about 4 to 5 strawberries, since I'm only doing a couple of servings. The other thing that is optional is you could use chia seeds or flax seeds or granola. You can make your own granola. It is a sweetener, a little bit of water, and you can bake it for about 10 minutes. So again, this is a really, really, really fast recipe. So
what I love about what you're showing us is how, I mean, it's another salad. It's so many beautiful things all put into one bowl.
yes, exactly. And it's also important, I have a big sweet tooth, right? So it's important to incorporate things that are colorful, that target the different parts of our body, right? I don't like my food to just be 1 or 2 colors, so that's why this is also a great recipe. I love using citrus in my recipes. You could use lemon juice if you don't have any limes. But I actually like using limes because they're a little bit more acidic than lemon. So I literally just cut some strawberries, some papaya, some mango. That's pretty easy. It's not taking me that long. So to make the dressing, again, I said agave has a low glycemic index, but use sparingly as well. So I'm only going to use about 1 teaspoon. This is just to drizzle over the fruit and the quinoa. You know what else I made with quinoa? I have made traditional arroz con leche with quinoa and brown rice. So I love using quinoa in blends with grains that I know that are high in carbs. So it counteracts the carb in whatever recipe I'm using. So literally just squeeze some limes, lime juice. You only need about 2 limes. And then I'm going to use the fresh mint, and I'm literally just going to literally rip it with my fingers and put it in there and then just whisk it together. The quinoa is still cooking. You could literally either eat it warm, or you can also put it in the fridge or let it cool for about half an hour.
I love how your citrus press makes it look so easy, so much better than the juicing, right?
My favorite thing in the world is like 10 years old. So I just love ripping the mint. I don't use my knife at all, nothing fancy. You could do a chiffonade and ribbons, etc. But hey, you know, we're at home. Rip it with your fingers. You can actually rip basil also with your fingers. It doesn't ruin the flavor or doesn't brown it, which sometimes if you use a knife that's dull, you can brown your basil or your mint. And it doesn't do anything to the flavor if people don't like looking at it because it's brown.
And your fingers will smell good.
I know. So I'm just whisking it together. And that's ready. So I am going to go check my quinoa, which I am sure it's done. And the way you know when quinoa is done is the water absorbed. So there's no water in there anymore.
And Chef Gomez, we have a question. If you had used an alternative grain instead of quinoa, what would be the cooking times on some of those grains?
You know, it really depends on the grain. I always tell people read the read the directions. Even with rice, it depends on the brand of rice, or you know, you should definitely just check to see what the direction says. Sorry, that's not a clear answer, but that's what I've learned. Let me move my phone. So I'm gonna bring my quinoa back. I'm gonna add it to a bowl. So there's another grain that I love using, and that's farro. And the reason why I say check the instructions on the packaging, because there's quick farro, and so it tells you about 10 minutes, right, to boil it in water, etc., for 10 minutes. And then there's the farro that you have to cook it for half an hour. So it's really important to see what it is that you're buying, what you're using. So I'm just gonna top my quinoa with the papaya, a little bit of the strawberries, the mango, some raspberries. Again, this is not super hard, and you can be really creative with it in terms of what fruit to use. Some sunflower seeds. I'm gonna add a little bit of granola. This is granola with cinnamon and agave, and also flax seeds, right? Some fiber. And just drizzle the dressing. And let me show you. So this is it. It's very colorful and bright, and super easy. And it has a lot of health benefits. That's what I'm looking for in my breakfast, Or sometimes you could have this for dessert or after dinner, or if you just have a sweet tooth, it definitely it will satisfy you. So that's it, you guys. I hope.
Thank you, Chef Shenya. It's gorgeous, really. And what I love here is it's not only an amazing new breakfast option. I don't know that many people consider quinoa as part of their breakfast, nor quinoa together with granola, which is a new one for me, and I think it looks amazing.
Or quinoa with rice or anything. I think it's just pairing it will give you that extra protein and fiber.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. Bonnie, do you have some nutritional highlights to share with us?
Yeah, that is a beautiful dish. That looks like something I would love to eat for breakfast. I wanted to point out this dish, like the others, is a great example of eating the rainbow. The phytonutrients that we've mentioned throughout this evening are often found in the most brightly colored parts of the foods. So eating dishes that include a lot of different colors is a great way to get a variety of phytonutrients. I also love how you truly are using your food as medicine to help with controlling your type 2 diabetes. That is absolutely incredible. You mentioned you had switched from rice to quinoa and also adding cinnamon to help with glycemic control. Those are such good strategies that we can all learn from. There's so much evidence in how a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet can help not only control, but also even reverse type 2 diabetes. So if anyone wants more information specifically on that, please message in the chat box. There's a lot of really great resources out there on the power of diet with diabetes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bonnie. And let's turn it over to the chat. Does anyone have any questions to pose either to the chefs or to Bonnie? I don't know if Bonnie mentioned she's a nurse at a Brooklyn hospital and has quite a bit to share on these little factoids about how plants are so health promoting. I'm not seeing any more questions right now, but feel free to keep as they come to you, you can put them in. I'm going to let you know that we actually put together a lovely virtual bazaar for you guys as well. I'm going to put a link right here. And what we've done is, for those of you specifically who are new to eating plant-based, to eating vegan, there are so many wonderful vendors within the Brooklyn community who are offering either vegan food or vegan products. And some of them who we've included on this website have also offered a few specials to those of you who have participated in the program tonight. Just so you know, we hope that you'll prepare the recipes that we've shared here through our event and explore other recipes when you cook at home, because cooking at home really allows you to control all the ingredients. So you can minimize the processed ingredients that are very commonly found in many restaurant foods and catered foods. And that can really bring much more profound health benefits if you're seeking to overcome chronic illness, lifestyle-based illnesses. Not all the food vendors on our list are observing some of the things that we say about reducing processed food intake, things that might be higher in salt and oils and in sugar. But definitely for those of you who are looking for a starting place to go down the path toward health with plant-based foods, a lot of what's there is fantastic. And a number of these vendors also have really wonderful healthy options as well. You can always work with chefs in the restaurants too to modify what's on the menu, because they may very much enjoy taking out an ingredient here or there to help you eat for your health. I don't know. Oh yeah, there was another question that came in here. What are the foods that you would eat on a daily basis to lose weight? And you know what, Aditi, thank you so much for this question, because I was actually going to mention that there is an incredible book that some of you I know on this program know about, which is How Not to Diet by Dr. Michael Greger. He goes through a number of different things that contribute to natural and healthy weight loss, which is something that many people experience naturally when they shift to eating a whole food plant-based diet. because of the high water content in plant foods, because of the high fiber content in plant foods, because of the low fat content in plant foods. There are so many aspects of plant foods that are actually helping you to naturally tap into the weight loss ability of your body. But it requires some abstinence from things that are higher in saturated fat, like animal products, and sometimes to avoid overeating the high fat plant foods that are out there, specifically avocado and coconuts, as well as nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds are really wonderful for our diet because they bring in so many different minerals and the natural unsaturated plant fats that we do need. Bonnie, do you want to add anything else about plant foods that are really good to eat on a daily basis to lose weight?
I think you said it well, really focusing on nutrient-dense foods and trying to avoid calorie-dense foods. So any of the foods that we've mentioned, the vegetables, fruits, beans, whole grains, are so beneficial for weight loss. You want foods that will fill you up, where you can spend a lot of time chewing and take a lot of bites. That's what helps you feel satisfied when you feel like you've eaten a good quantity of food. But foods that don't necessarily have a high calorie load. So staying away from, tons of peanut butter, which is my weakness. But another really important thing, fat loss is a very broad topic, and I do recommend Dr. Greger's website and his book to get some really amazing explanations on a lot of these details. But one important thing to think about when you're thinking about weight loss and eating plant-based is that our bodies are better at sensing food volume than they are at sensing the calorie content per food, if that makes sense. So when you're thinking about how many calories are in a food, you might look at the label on a package and be like, right, 250 calories per serving. But when you eat that food, your body isn't going to have a way to measure, oh, I just ate 250 calories. Our bodies sense volume, and our body hormonal systems that regulate our appetite will help us feel satisfied and help us know when to stop eating when we've had enough volume of foods. So there are, again, some kind of complex hormonal processes involved with that. And sometimes it's something that needs to re-regulate as we go on a weight loss journey. But focusing again on the whole plant foods that are high in nutrients, high in volume, but low in calories is going to help us feel full and satisfied, and be able to lose excess body fat without having to count calories, without having to measure everything obsessively.
Great, that's so awesome, Bonnie. Thank you so much. Are there other questions that have come through? Let me take a peek. That's a great question, really. And there's so many different things we could talk about tonight. I think though, I don't see other questions that are here. What I do want to recommend, we are going to be back soon with more wonderful educational programming, and there you'll also find a lot more on our YouTube channel. We have presented quite a number of online programs since the shutdown happened in March. And here we see Rachel's sharing the website where we have our virtual bazaar, which we really designed just for you. I want to thank Emani and Bonnie for putting that together. You'll see there the link to access all the recipes, and then we have, I believe it's a dozen wonderful vendors who you can learn about and hopefully take advantage of their services. I think it's really critical at this time when so many small businesses are suffering that there is something to look forward to, that we all pitch in and support our local small businesses getting through this really challenging time. So take a peek there after the program and give it a try. There are some really wonderful things listed. And with that, I want to just announce one more thing before handing it back to Rachel. Bonnie is actually going to be back on Wednesday, August 19th, sharing a little bit about her experiences working as a nurse in COVID-19 hospital and what she's learned about nutrition vis-a-vis COVID. This is going to be a really powerful look into the frontline experience, and what we can do to take a very active role, as Bonnie had mentioned at the very beginning of this program, to take an active role in our health and to do what public health officials are telling us to do, which is great, which is wearing masks and washing hands and all of that, and also to take the active role of choosing foods that are going to give us a healthy immune response to viral infection. So please, you can find a lot more details about our programming on our website, and we'll share a link for that in just a second. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, oh, now I'm forgetting. I just wanted to give another big thanks to our chefs tonight who prepared such lovely, fresh, incredible dishes for all of you. I hope you have a lot of new tools in your toolkit for your kitchens. So huge thanks to Chef Emani, Chef Don, and Chef Shenya for being with us tonight, and also to Bonnie for offering your nutritional wisdom with us. So Rachel, take it home for us tonight.
Thank you so much, Leanna. And normally when we're in person at Borough Hall, we're able to give a ton of a round of applause to our presenters, to our chefs. And while we are not hearing that on WebEx, we hear it over here at Borough Hall, because we are just so honored that you took the time to come out with us this Monday evening. This is our Vegan and Veg Curious series. This is the event that we host once every 3 months. So we are back here, most likely on virtual, November 2nd, 2020. And with that, once more, thank you so much for coming out tonight. This will be on YouTube, so you are going to be able to kind of pause and cook alongside people however many times you want in order to get healthy and to get those delicious recipes. And the resources that Plant Powered Metro New York has created, even just for tonight, but for everything that they have ever done, are incredibly impressive. So be sure to check out their website. And thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Thanks for coming.